better. Oh my God, that spider is just dangling. I hate it so much. Oh, hey there. How's it going? I don't know what that was. Well, what's going on, everybody? My name's Corey, that TCG guy, and we're here with another Magic video. I promise there's going to be other content like Flesh and Blood, Digimon. Just wait. I have some stuff in the pipeline. It's coming. We'll get there. I promise. So they finally spoiled my favorite card from all of New Capenna. It's from one of the precons, the Obscura or Esper precon. It's easily the card that I'm looking forward to the most as far as legendary creatures, as far as commanders to build. I already started putting together a list. We're not going to go over the full list quite yet. I'm still doing a little bit of tweaking. I'm doing a little bit of changes here and there, trying to figure out like a sub theme, but we're going to go over a few of those things in this video. But what I want to do is go over some of the main staples you're going to want to see in this deck. And you already clicked on the video, so you already know who it is. But in case you don't know, let's talk about this guy. Not this, that's a cardboard cutout of me, but this guy. All right, so we're talking about Tivit, Seller of Secrets. This is in the Esper or Obscura precon. It is 3 and Esper for a legendary creature, Sphinx Rogue, with the creepiest mustache I've ever seen. And its text reads, flying and ward 3. And then the reason why I want to build this deck is the rest of it. Council's Dilemma. When Tivit enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, starting with you, each player votes for evidence or for bribery. For each evidence vote, you investigate, and for each bribery vote, you create a treasure token. And then to put a cherry on top of this proverbial sundae, why did that sound so creepy? To just sweeten this deal, it has the final text that says, while voting, you may vote an additional time. Let's talk about why that's so awesome. All right, so here it is, Tivit, Seller of Secrets. This is, as far as I can tell, going to be a very heavy politics deck. I think fitting this with as many politics pieces, obviously all the Council's Dilemma cards, any cards that requires voting or has to do with voting, you're going to want to try to put in this deck. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like in the Obscura Precon that there are any Council's Dilemma cards printed. I'm going to go through the spoilers really quick before we continue on here, just to double check to see if there's something maybe I missed, but going through the Obscura Precon, I don't think there are any other Council's Dilemma cards, so we're going to be limited to the ones that have been printed previously, basically only in, I think, Conspiracy 1 and Conspiracy 2, but before we continue, I'm going to double check that, and then we'll be right back. Yeah, I don't see anything in the new precons or anything recently that has Council's Dilemma. If I missed something, and if there is something that you know of that I didn't catch, let me know in the comments below. But anyway, moving on to the cards you're going to want to put in this deck. So this video is not going to be a full deck tech. We will do a full deck tech on this later, I promise. But for now, this is more of just kind of a quick take. We're just going to take a look at the cards you're going to want to put in this deck that are going to work well with this commander. And then maybe we'll talk about some sub-themes, things we can fill the deck out with, because there aren't enough Council's Dilemma or Will of the Council's cards to really fill out a full deck here. But I think from what I said earlier, the politicking is going to have a huge impact on this deck, and maybe we can turn this into a Esper or Obscura politics deck. So let's talk about some of the cards that are going to fit exquisitely into this deck. So like I said, you're going to want to kind of shove everything in here that has to do with voting. All right, so there are about 12 cards altogether, creatures and spells included, that have some sort of voting mechanic. Now, that's either going to be Will of the Council or Council's Dilemma. Both of these are mechanics from Conspiracy 1 and Conspiracy 2. I think that Conspiracy 2 has the better of the Council's Dilemma or voting cards. They tend to give you more benefits than the Will of the Council cards. Those ones from Conspiracy 1 have to do with still voting, but it depends on what gets more votes or what gets tied for the most votes, whereas Council's Dilemma counts the number of votes for each thing, and you get the benefit based on the number for each one. Both of them, are going to have some really good effects, and we're going to basically jam all of the Esper colored ones into this deck. So let's take a look at the First, Will of the Council creatures. First off, we have Council Guardian. This is a 5 and a white creature giant soldier. Will of the Council. It says, when Council Guardian enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for blue, black, red, or green. Council Guardian gains protection from each color with the most votes or tied for the most votes. So, it's going to give you some protection, which is good. Custody Squire, 4 and a white for a creature spirit cleric. Will of the Council, when Custody Squire enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for an artifact, creature, or enchantment card in your graveyard. Return each card with the most votes or tied for the most votes to your hand. A little recursion. Magister of Worth. This is actually from one of the Strixhaven precons, I believe. This one has Will of the Council. When Magister of Worth enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for Grace or Condemnation. If Grace gets more votes, each player returns each creature card with their from their graveyard to the battlefield. If Condemnation gets more votes or the vote is tied, destroy all creatures other than Magister of Worth. So it's a board wipe on a stick, or it is a mass recursion on a stick. So, could go either way. All right, those are the Will of the Council creatures. Let's talk about the Council's Dilemma creatures. We have Lieutenant of the Guards. This one, when it enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for strength or numbers. You put a +1/+1 counter on Lieutenant of the Guard for each strength vote, and you put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield for each numbers vote. So you're either just pumping your creatures, or you're pumping your creature, or you're getting multiple creatures, which is good. And then we have Messenger Jays. This one has, when Messenger Jays enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for feathers or quill. Put a +1/+1 counter on Messenger Jays for each feather, and then you draw a card for each quill vote. And then for each card you draw this way, you discard a card, so makes it a little bit fair. And that's it. There's not many creatures that have this voting mechanic on there. So, in this style of deck, we're gonna jam all of these in there, just so we can get the most out of that mechanic on Tivit himself. Now, where the real meat and potatoes is the spells that you're going to want to throw in this. Let's talk about all of them. I think there's about 7 of them. So let's go through each of these here one by one. Bite of the Black Rose. Starting with you, each player votes for Sickness or Psychosis. If Sickness gets more votes, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 till end of turn. If Psychosis gets more votes, or the vote is tied, each opponent discards 2 cards. So really, really good effect. Council's Judgment. This one is actually a pretty common commander card. Starting with you, each player votes for a non-land permanent you don't control. Exile each permanent with the most votes or tied for the most votes. So we've seen this one before. Plea for Power. Starting with you, each player votes for Time or Knowledge. If Time gets more votes, you take an extra turn after this one. If Knowledge gets more votes or the vote is tied, you draw 3 cards. So it's a less powerful Expropriate. And then Tyrant's Choice. Starting with you, each player votes for Death or Torture. If Death gets more votes, each opponent sacrifices a creature. If Torture gets more votes, or the vote is tied, each opponent loses 4 life. Again, a really good effect. And the last Will of the Council card here is Split Decision. You choose target instant or sorcery spell. Starting with you, each player votes for Denial or Duplication. If Denial gets more votes, counter the spell. If Duplication gets more votes, or the vote is tied, you copy the spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So it's a nice little trick. And then again, with Tivit on the battlefield, with getting that extra vote, more than likely you can get this either denied if you don't want it, or copied if you do. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the Council's Dilemma cards. Again, these are the ones from Conspiracy 2, the ones that I think give you a little bit more value. First off, we have Capital Punishment. Starting with you, each player votes for Death or for Taxes. Each opponent sacrifices a creature for each death vote and discards a card for each taxes vote. Again, this is giving you a bit more value, I think. It doesn't matter if the vote's tied, you're going to get the benefit for the number of each thing chosen. And then we have my fan favorite, the one that I love, is probably my favorite card ever, Expropriate. Starting with you, each player votes for Time or Money. For each Time vote, take an extra turn after this one. For each Money vote, choose a permanent owned by the voter and gain control of it, and then you exile Expropriate. This card is going to divide tables. If your playgroup is not okay with this card, don't run it. I usually will tell the people I'm playing with, like, hey, heads up, this deck has an Expropriate in it. It is a card that can abuse extra turns, so you're going to want to be careful with that. You're going to want to make sure people know that it's there, because it can lead to some feel bads. That being said, I love it. I run it. You can expect to see it in this deck, and that's just, it is what it is. And yeah, that's that's it for all of the Will of the Council cards and Council's Dilemma voting cards that we have here. There are some other cards that are going to support this style of play, support the voting mechanics. There are multiple creatures that let you gain an extra vote or change how someone votes, and we're going to talk about a few of those right now. First off, we have Ballot Broker. This is a 2/3 creature for 2 and a white that says when voting, you may vote an additional time. So this is just giving you that last text on Tivit. And once again, with Brago's representatives, this is a 1/4 for 2 and a white. While voting, you get an additional vote. So you're really just compounding all the votes you can get. You really want to just to control how the votes go, and these creatures are going to do that for you. You also have a card called Illusion of Choice. This is a card that, if abused, can change how this game is played, but also for those key cards, things like maybe Expropriate or, Plea for Power. Illusion of Choice is a single blue instant that says you choose how each player votes this turn, and then you draw a card. And then, put this with something like an Isochron Scepter. You can use it for every single vote card that you have. It's really bonkers. It's just nuts. And then lastly, we have Grudge Keeper. This is a 2/1 for 1 and a black that says whenever a player finishes voting, each opponent who voted for a choice that you did not choose loses 2 life. So for example, with Expropriate, if I choose time and all 3 of my opponents choose money, each of them will lose 2 life for voting money. But if, say, I chose time and Beth chose time, then me and Beth will be fine, and everyone else who voted for money will lose 2 life. So it's pretty good. And yeah, that's it for the voting mechanic cards. There's not a ton so far in Magic's repertoire and Magic's catalog that we can use in this deck, but I do think we shove all of these in there and then find a sub theme that is either going to support all this or is going to just stay in line with the theme we're choosing, which is politics. So where can we go with this? It really depends on how you want to build this. When I was going through the precon, it looks like the precon has a pretty heavy rogues sub-theme to it, so you could definitely make this into a rogues deck that has some sort of politic and voting aspect to it. I think going the Sphinx route for me is probably where I'm going to go, and then adding in just a bunch of politicking cards. So there is a ton of things that we can do here to make this a very heavy politics deck. You can kind of hold hostage draw steps. You can allow players to draw extra cards. You can take creatures. You can, really hold people's lives in the balance with this politics sub-theme. So it's definitely something that I think I'm going to look into when building this. And when I build the full deck, I will definitely do a full deck tech here for you with my politics build of Tivit. And yeah, like I said, there's a 1,000 different ways you can build this deck, and I'm curious to see which way you build it. Oh, all right. Well, that was it. There you go. There it is. That was the Tivit Cellar of Secrets quick take, I guess you could call this. Not a full deck tech, just kind of a breakdown of the cards that I think are going to go really well. And then a breakdown of, one possible sub-theme that you could potentially take this deck into. But like I said, there are 1,000 different ways you can take this. You can go rogues, you can go politics, you can go Sphinx, you can go steal stuff. It really depends on how you feel like building this. I think I'm definitely leaning more towards the politic style deck with this, so I'm really excited to kind of tinker with that and see what I can come up with. But I'm excited to see what you come up with, so please in the comments below let me know how you would build this deck. And if you want to continue this discourse, there is a link to my Discord down in the description of this video. Head on over there and go to the deck idea section, and we can talk about this deck build and what you would do and what I would do and what I am doing. And you can talk with all the people in my community and get their input and get their ideas and see kind of what they're doing, see what they're working on, and maybe you can help them out. So that's definitely something you should go do. Go check out the link in the description below for that. All right, guys, that's all I got for you this time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, all the typical YouTube stuff. Also, don't forget to check out Pinfinity AR. It is one of the affiliates that we work with. They make awesome, high quality, altered reality pins. So you take your phone and you put your phone and you have the camera and you look at the pin and it does cool things. It's something you definitely want to go take a look at. You can click my affiliate link, which is down in the description, or or if you go to the website, you can use my affiliate code, ThatTCGguy, at checkout, and you get 20% off of any order that you do there, or you also get 20% off of any subscription order you do. So take a look at that. Definitely something you should check out. They're super high quality, super awesome, and I love them. So check it out. And then lastly, you can check out my Patreon, patreon.com/thattcgguy. There's 2 tiers right now, a $1 tier and a $5 tier. You can either get, shout outs for being a patron, which we're going to do in a second, or in the $5 tier, you get the shout outs, plus you get a That TCG Guy sticker, which right now is just the standard logo, but hey, we're going to come up with some cool new designs, and you can get those in the future, so go take a look at that. But anyway, like I said, the shout outs, here are the shout outs for the patrons. Not many quite yet, but we're growing. It's small, it's tiny. We're a grower, not a shower. Can I say that? Yeah, sure, why not? All right, so thank you so much, Trenton. Thank you so much, Wah. I swear these are real names. And then thank you so much, Jacqueline and Robin. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being patrons. Really appreciate you. You guys are incredible. You help keep all this going. And if you would like to donate or become a patron, head on the link down below, and you can take a look at that and become a patron of this lovely, awesome channel. And everything you do and every dollar you donate helps me keep the lights on and do all this fun stuff. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. And yeah, let's shuffle up and get a game. Until next time.